Welcome to Evolve Here Now, the podcast for leaders who are advancing the meaning and impact of business success, full spectrum health, medicine, and high performance in all areas of life.
This is your home if you are a leader who is ready to step up your impact, inspiration, and personal evolution so that you can serve at the level you know you're capable of and beyond.
Join us now as we recharge, elevate, and accelerate you on your journey into this accelerated evolution community of the world's top influencers.
I'm your host, Talia Jacqueline.
I'm the founder, Satyan Raja, and once again, it's time to accelerate your evolution and your leadership.
Welcome to Evolve Here Now. This is episode 7, and today we have a really special guest on here. His name's Ryan White. Ryan, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Satyan Raja, the founder of Accelerated Evolution. And, you know, Ryan's actually one of the best personal trainers out there, truly, with over 15 years of experience. You know, the ins and outs, man. And he's also a 2-time champion, a physique champion. So, Ryan, welcome. And we'd love... we're so happy to have you on this show. Truly, it's such an honor. And,
thank you, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan. Thanks for being here, my friend. We go back a long time, eh? How many years?
Man, a long time, since I was a teenager, I think,
Wow.
Seems like decades.
And, I know you'll share a little bit about yourself as well, but just so everyone gets an understanding, from my perspective, I've been around the healthcare, holistic healthcare, traditional healthcare scene since I was 17. I got into shiatsu therapy and acupuncture, and then many different types of healings, and health and nutrition. And I have to say, in all these years, Ryan, you really are one of the most kick-ass, badass, not only with your own physique, of course, but your scientific understanding of every method of health and vitality and healing and body movement from like every single source that I can even imagine. You have absorbed it, and you're a shining example of living it, as well as you know how to bring. You've been working with the CEOs that I coach. You've been taking them from okay and flat and a little flabby to like world class, ripped, sexy, and in power. So
Exactly.
I want to thank you for that. Thank you for that.
I'm speaking from personal experience too. Like, you really are a true leader in our community, and also just a master at what you do. So really excited to have you share that. So you guys do go way back. I'd love to know how you found Satyan and how your journey started in this community.
I have to say I was probably at the end of high school. I had been training martial arts at a different facility, and a few of my friends had mentioned Satyan's gym, and so I went to check it out, and immediately, like right away, it was not even one of the instructors that kind of took me through my first class, but I could tell that there was something different and unique about this school. You know what I mean? It was called Beyond Kung Fu, and that was my first impression, was that there was so many more deeper layers to it than just like the physical art that I had gone there for, and so through years of training there, that's where I got my first taste of Satyan's work, and I kind of got into the personal development world, and I really brought a whole like spiritual aspect for me to this art that up until that point had been more because I saw Bruce Lee kick somebody's ass on TV and I wanted to be like that, you know what I mean? So I got so many gifts along the way, and the deeper I dove into this work, the more transformative it was for my own life. The more I could help transform other people's lives, the more I could manifest, things that I wanted to come into like my life. So there's just some profound powers that kind of came from these teachings, and I'm really excited to talk more about it for sure.
Tell us a little bit about your journey. So what's your profession, and just a little bit about your background of credentials, what you've studied. And
so I've been formally like training for over 15 years. I have about 12 advanced certifications from clinical exercise to pre and postnatal fitness, raw and superfood nutrition, like you name it. And I probably have a certification that covers it. I studied kinesiology and health science at York University in Toronto, Canada. And it was really, I've been a lifelong athlete and martial artist, of course. And, it was really within the last year or so where I felt like I needed to be more of a living demonstration, like the highest level of like what I was trying to teach. I wanted to embody that. And so that became my mission, because it's one thing to tell somebody something, right? It's another thing to show them, how you do it. So, I really dove into these natural bodybuilding, like physique competitions, and I became a two-time Colorado physique champion. I went to world championships in Las Vegas and placed top 5 in the world. And, from there, things really started snowballing, because then all of a sudden, I had the knowledge, but then I also had this like positioning. And so it's really opened some doors for me to reach more people and help more people, along this journey. So that's kind of in a nutshell, really.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
What type of people do you help? Like what type and like how do you help them?
It varies a lot. I mean, I might have a college football athlete, Division two, come in who's torn his hamstring, had to sit out the last half of the season, couldn't figure out where this injury was coming from, and we have to go in and analyze posture and like, find muscle imbalances and then work from the ground up to like rebuild that athlete so that they're performing at their highest level. It might be, somebody that that had cancer, that had, a whole bunch of tissue removed and has nerve damage. And now, we're working on trying to bring them back to like a higher level of like life. You know what I mean? It could be nutrition coaching for pregnancy. It really varies a lot. I would say most of my clientele are probably, athletes, entrepreneurs, kind of high level, like really motivated people, kind of like splashed in with some of those other ones. So each person, I take a very individual approach. We find out exactly where they're at in their life right now, so that it's, we have a clear picture of where, and they have a clear picture themselves of where they're at. Mm-hmm. And then, we paint that picture of where they want to be. And each one of those, that path is different for everyone. So we create like a custom, journey for them that,
How do you help them?
It might involve advanced lab testing. It might involve creating custom nutrition. It's based on kind of what what they need. Exactly. A lot of times now that I've been exposed to the accelerated evolution processes, I bring those in, for people that, I've had people walk into the gym and be like, you know what, today I'm quitting. That's it. I had enough. I can't do it anymore. And within 15 minutes, I take them through like, one of these processes, and bam, they're back refocused, and like, they have the best workout of their life. So, it's very, the more tools I can have, the better I can serve people. And this has certainly been probably one of the most profound ones that I have in my toolbox, I think,
Yeah, I'd like to let's hear about that because we have many people who are interested who are in the health professions, trainers, health professionals, and so forth. Would you be kind enough to share your direct experience with accelerated evolution? Just, what it is for you personally and professionally, how it works personally and professionally.
Yes.
It's great if you give us an insight from the ground floor of your experience,
I think my first exposure to it was back in like 2011, maybe it was 11. And really it was like, I first approached it, okay, I have these like new coaching tools that I have available to me. It was just kind of like these simple processes that, anybody could really go through without, regardless of what their religion is or spirituality. It kind of took all that out of it and just gave you some like real life, simple exercises basically that you can do with someone to improve their mental performance or help them overcome barriers and all of this stuff. And so I started using it really at that point, strictly in the fitness realm to help motivate athletes and, people that were having challenges with weight loss. And, that's kind of where it started. And then the more that I practiced it myself, the more I saw that things that I was trying to create would come into my life faster, right? Or characteristics that I didn't have, I could pick up from people that I modeled, you know what I mean? So there was like all of a sudden I could see, hey, you know what? I can start building like the perfect version of myself. And then I was using it to help each one of my clients kind of like pull out the perfect version of themselves. And then, I went through a couple, heavy times in my life. I went through a scary medical crisis, where I almost died. And
Yeah, I remember.
I worked with you, Satyen, and you helped me, and it was
Yeah,
the only thing.
just to give people context,
Yeah.
you were
Yeah. So
you were poisoned by inadvertently poisoned by chemical sprays next to your house, right?
yeah, I was down in Costa Rica. Took my family there on vacation. We had been there for about 2 months, and this guy sprayed Agent Orange behind
Oh
the
my
house that I
God.
was renting. Came into my window like while I was sleeping. Um, I had dropped from probably 190 pounds to 143 pounds in 6 weeks.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
I went to see every medical specialist that you could think of. Once I got back to the U.S. and nobody could figure out how to help. And um, people had talked to me about like, being staying positive and stuff. And when you're going through something like that, especially when you were a high level athlete before, you were in perfect health, never really had to go to the doctor, and all of a sudden, you're kind of, you're riding that edge of like meeting your maker. You know what I mean? It makes you second guess and question a lot of those things. And so, accelerated evolution was like these processes that I did with you were the only things that could get my mind to a place that would allow my body to heal.
Mm.
Right? It was almost like sabotaging myself, and so it got me aligned to a point where, my body was more responsive to
Mm.
the other methods that I was bringing to it. Right? I wasn't resisting it with like thoughts and emotion and stuff like that, and I was clearing out kind of those charges that were building up and all the self-limiting beliefs. I was losing like 2 pounds a day at one point and trying to eat 5,000 calories just to not lose weight, a day. And so it really brought me through that, and I bounced back. I got into the best shape of my life, won 2 physique championships after that. But um, I would say that that was like such an important moment for me because it was the lowest point that I had ever gotten to. And all of a sudden I had a set of tools that could help me through that. Right. And so from there, then I started using it a lot more with my clients and kind of blending it into, even like group settings and stuff. And I ended up opening up my own gym, and it became like a Saturday thing that we were doing for the longest time, where we would all meet up and, do different processes and people working on their stuff, and I started to see results happen a lot faster. And then, of course, Talia, I worked with you a
Yeah.
bunch of times, leading up to my first physique championship.
Yeah.
Um, it really got me to a point where I felt like all I had to do was walk on stage and they were just going to hand me a trophy. Like I already just like saw it in my head. I was
Yeah.
so, I had created such a detailed image or picture or slide of like what I wanted that I just felt like I just had these tools. I could just walk right into it. And so I didn't really have any nerves, you know what I mean? Like other people were nervous backstage and I just had the time of my life.
Yeah, I remember that.
You
I
remember
remember
that?
we did an accelerated evolution process like hours before you went on stage, and something
Yeah.
that you were explaining to me was that, I mean, you were really in like the best shape, and that a lot of people were, but that it was all about the energy that you emanate when you're up there, which is really true about being a professional in any field, right? It's all about what you're emanating. So I remember when we did that process, you were like we were actually on the phone. We didn't even see each other, and you were like on fire. Like you were just emanating. Like I could feel the energy. It was amazing.
Magnetism.
It was amazing. Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, I think with this technology, for lack of a better word, um, you can really create exactly what you want in your
Yeah.
life. You know what I mean? Like you really have the tools where you can make that happen. Um, and so, I mean, I think everybody should at least come try it once.
In your words, Ryan, how would you describe that? Like, how do you explain the power that it is that you really can create anything from that place?
I think thoughts become things, and even in the my bodybuilding community, that's a big term. Thoughts become things. And even Arnold Schwarzenegger used to say, like, in his six, main um, rules for bodybuilding, I mean, mindset was really the first one, right? So I think really what this stuff does is get you out of your own way. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times you get in your own way, whether it's thoughts that come up or beliefs or comparisons with other people, and it starts to throw you off track because you're not really focused on where you want to go. You're focused on all these other kind of charges and, things that come up, obstacles. And so what this does is, for me, it just helps eliminate those barriers and obstacles that separate me from where I want to get to, and it helps me get there faster. It just kind of clears the path,
Yes.
so I can get there as quick as possible with more ease, with more grace, without stressing so much. You know what I mean? I work way less than I've ever worked before. You know what I mean? When it comes to like just spending hours and hours doing mindless tasks. Now, when I choose to do something, we get it done and we move on. You know what I mean? So that's really for me. It just like it clears the path and helps you get to your goal.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Do you have anything you wanted to check in, Talia, with him?
Yeah, you've been involved in this community for a while, and you've done Illumination Intensives. I mean, I'd love to hear about like the full spectrum of what you've experienced in the work that you've done with Satyan and how accelerated evolution compares to that.
I think still to this day, probably the most profound experience I ever had in my life was when I went to Illumination Intensive. I mean, it was like I had never experienced something that, I mean, I feel my eyes like tearing up just like thinking about that moment. You know what I mean?
So for those who don't know what it is, Ryan, can you explain?
Yeah. So it's kind of like I mean, at first it seems like you're in hell almost. So I mean, you have to like sit there, and you're in like kind of like a dyad sort of format, which means you're sitting across from someone else, and you have somebody asking you the same question like over and over again, like, tell me who you are, right? And if you've never really sat down and asked yourself that question before, it's like you should really try it, because it's hard to come up with like an answer sometimes when somebody asks you that. And it really, like, layer by layer, I felt it was like, things were very superficial at first, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then like the longer we stayed in that process, the deeper I got, and it sucked at first because it was making you face things about yourself that you didn't really want to face, that you'd kind of stuffed down in there and like forgotten about, right? So you have these things come up. And so it was like this process of just like clearing off like all these layers that I felt I had been wearing my whole life. And then once that happened, all that was left was like the truth of who I was. And I mean, it's the most profound experience I think anyone can ever have, and it changed my life from that point on. I mean, I felt like I had superpowers after that, and so that was really my first taste. And then, once Accelerated Evolution, those processes came, it kind of gave you like tools in your pocket that gets you to the same place somehow, right? But it's fast, and you don't have to spend 5 days like sitting and having somebody ask you the same question over and over again for 5 days. You can do it in like 15 minutes or something like that. But
Why I call it accelerated evolution.
accelerate. So it's like it's way faster. So I've had someone take me through a process now. In 15, 20 minutes, I get to the same place that I got in 5 days of like 12 hours a day. Just being on point. Meditating or whatever. So, it just opened my eyes that there was so much possibility, with these tools, and I use them still. And there's been times this year where I've reached out to you, Talia, whenever I'm dealing with anything, as soon as I start feeling it come up, I gotta use this, because I know if I don't, then it's just putting more obstacles in my way. You know what I mean? So anytime I feel like I have a problem, or some emotional issue that comes up, I try to process it and deal with it right away, so that I'm more empowered and I can move forward with my life,
Yeah.
So,
And just obviously not giving any detail here, but just saying like this past year, especially since you started this journey in Accelerated Evolution, which was last year, yeah?
Yeah.
Really, you've been through milestones in your life, and just to see where you are today from all of that and what you've accomplished is really a testament to the work that you've done, and especially with these techniques. So it's pretty incredible. It's pretty
Thank you
incredible.
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
What's your last words to share with people who are considering this, or like what would you say to people in the healthcare industry regarding this, so they can understand what it is from your perspective, the essence of it, and what its value,
Yeah.
what it's good for, why it's valuable.
I like to call it like a gym for my mind, right? That's the way that I think about it, because like I go in and I have a place where I exercise my body and I improve that and I hone my skills and but your mind is such an important factor that most people forget about, right? And so what this is really, it's like it's an exercise program for your mind, for your emotions, for your dreams. You know what I mean? It's a way that you can um, really kind of form exactly what it is that you're going after and get a clear picture of that, and then get there in the fastest way possible. So when you have people in the healthcare industry, like patients that are sick, or they're dealing with weight loss challenges, or they can't quit smoking, right? Sometimes that just comes down to like one single charge that needs to be like eliminated, and you have like a quick exercise you can take them through where they don't feel intimidated, they feel comfortable, it's natural, and it eliminates that charge and lets them focus on what their goal is now, which is like quitting smoking or get sticking to their diet. It's all of a sudden, that thing that was holding them back doesn't exist anymore. So that's really like the best way I can describe it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's mat time for your mind.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
this
you.
is awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ryan.
And I do
This
have
is
a
awesome. You've shared some really powerful insights from your personal life
Hmm.
and how this is working. You remain a star in our community and a
Yeah.
great asset to all the people that um, you get to serve. So thank you once, and just continue what you're doing.
Hmm.
It's
thank
just
you very
great having you
much.
on this team.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ryan, I'd love for you to just share where people can get in touch with you and contact with you if they're inspired by what you do or anything that you've shared.
Our website is called ironwarriors.fit, so you can check us out there. That's probably the best way, and there's links to our Facebook page and stuff up on the website. We have exercise programs and stuff available there too. So, yeah, if you need to get in touch
Perfect.
with me, that's
Perfect. Well, thank you
Iron
so much
Warriors
for
fit. Okay, cool. Thank you.
thank you so much for being
all
on
right.
and sharing
Thanks very
everything.
much.
Good
Appreciate the
company
time.
from the good old days.
Thank you. Tune in soon, guys, for the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Take
Thanks,
care.
guys.